This is how to make a lean-to fire lay. This is very simple, not much prep time, and it works really well, especially if you have a little bit of a breeze. So if you look down here in the fire pit, you can already tell that I've got a large log, and this is going to be the basis of the lean-to fire lay. I use this to kind of deflect the wind, and that's the beauty of this, is that if I have any kind of wind coming at the fire, I can lay that log to block it. Now I know I've got this big rock right here. We're doing this for demonstration purposes, but if you're ever trying to start a fire and even a slight breeze, you know that becomes an issue of your matches going out or things just not working out very well. So this big log is going to effectively stop that breeze and make it easier for you to start that fire. Now with all fires, we're going to start out with our tinder. And so right up here I've got a bit of a bundle. Lots of fibers, tightly packed. These are dead grasses and weeds. Different kind of tinder bundles work. For this area, this is what I like to use. Out in the desert, I'll break apart the yuccas and things like that and use the fibers. But the idea is lots of surface area, lots of openings, and a little bit of space for the air to move through this. So very, very flammable material. I'm going to go ahead and set that underneath this log. Now the idea is that as I build my fire lay, I want to be able to access one or both of these ends, because you've got to be able to get your match or your lighter up underneath it to really get this thing started. You also might want to take a moment to dig out a little bit and make sure that your air can get up underneath there, because if your bundle is too close to the ground, you're not going to be able to get the oxygen that you want. Okay. From here, we're going to start building the lean-to, and the idea is that it's going to come over the top, and it's going to shelter it and allow the flames from this started bundle to come up through and to light our fire. So we just make a simple lean-to. You can take a lot of time, make it pretty, but the idea is that we make this efficient. And so make it pretty all you want, but in the end it should, if you're successful, burn. So you don't want to spend all your time. You just want to make a successful fire lay to get that fire started. Stay warm or create light or cook something, whatever you're designing this fire to do. Now, I'm going to be laying several layers on here, and I'm loosely layering them. I don't want to push them side by side so much that the air cannot move up through the branches. The idea is that air will come in from the right and from the left and push up through them. I do want to have several layers going up, but I want to make it so that the flames can come through. You don't want to make like a roof. You don't want to make it so compact. You want to have airflow. Now you might be able to get away with compacting it, but it's going to be harder to start that fire, especially if it's been wet, and it's not going to burn as hot. So that's the idea. Now I'll put a few of these on there because you don't want to really chance it, especially if you're in a survival situation. Take the extra time. You might be cold, you might be hungry. You're going to be a lot colder and hungrier if you run out of matches or butane fuel. So take your time. An extra couple of minutes can mean literally life or death, or at least a good meal. Down here below me, I've split a little bit of fuel wood, and this is mesquite, a very hard wood. Your oaks, mesquite, things like that. They do take a little bit longer to start, but they're going to be a hotter fire, and you're going to get some good coals out of those. So really good cooking material. And if you're wanting to fire overnight, these things are what you want to have around. As my kindling and tinder really start to flame up, I'll start taking the smallest pieces and adding on to it. And that's the idea. I'll slowly get bigger and bigger fuel. One of the neat things about this fire is that since I've got this big log to start out with, I've already got a big source of fuel. So on a lot of the fire lays, you light them and then you automatically have to start putting bigger and bigger logs on them and mess with them for a while. Or you have to leave and go and get your big fuel and put it on top. With this one, you're already set up. You've already got 30 minutes to an hour worth of fuel in the fire. You don't have to rush around right as you started out. So let's go ahead and start this thing up and see how we did. Alright, so the idea whenever you make a fire lay is that you make it into a one match fire. And so you use one match to start one fire, if you did it right, and if your matches aren't wet. So here's the idea. I light it, I get up under here, and I get this all fired up, starts bringing in the oxygen, and it gets it started up real well. So here we go. Here's your match. Here's your fuel. And notice I did not cover it over where I couldn't get to this fuel down here. You want to make sure that you don't get overzealous and cover it up where you can't get underneath. That's one of the big things you want to do. Also, starting a fire is a very interactive thing. You want to continue to add your small pieces of wood over and over and over again. Just keep on adding to it, keep on building, because these small pieces, even though you have a lot of them, are going to burn up very quickly. And so you don't want to turn around and all of a sudden you've got nothing but a few ashes and a few tiny coals left. You want to keep on building it until you have more of these big pieces. And that's the idea. So, real easy, real quick. Just like gasoline, right? Don't use gasoline. As this thing builds, we go ahead and start adding some of the fuel. And that's going to work. Now this is enough fuel to keep me going for about an hour. And I don't want to add anything more. This is plenty enough heat if I was trying to stay warm. This is plenty large to go ahead and start cooking over. If you're going to be camping or surviving in an area for an extended period of time, you want to be very conservative with your fuel use, because you're going to find out after a while that you're going to have to range and travel further and further for the choice pieces of wood. So be careful with that. Be very selective in what you do. Be safe, guys. Make sure you put all your fires out, and like and subscribe. Till next time.